Hello and welcome back to Eric's Geography Vlogs. This is the third and final video of the day and we'll be talking about production and markets. As you may have noticed, I've moved spots from over there to a more shady region over here, so let's go. The production and markets section of the syllabus is allocated 3 hours, and the objectives of this section are to examine the impacts at a variety of scales of trade barriers, agricultural subsidies, bilateral and multilateral agreements, and transnational corporations, TNCs, on the production and availability of food. So let's get right into it. 1/8 of the people living in developing nations are undernourished and in a state of chronic hunger. With the impressive technology and production methods that are available to us, the question arises, to what extent is this hunger less of a resource problem and more of a result of politics? So let's look at how these different relationships affect food production and availability. One of the most important things that influence food production and availability are trade barriers, which are tariffs or other restrictions on trade intended to protect domestic products. These are typically used in high-income countries like the USA. This restricts market access from low-income countries. Often, many countries agree to drop trade barriers and allow free trade between them. This is called a trading bloc. Trading blocs are international agreements to allow free trade between members of the trading bloc while tariffs are still imposed on other countries that wish to trade with them. An example is the EU, which has a major impact on food production and trade. The EU introduced the Common Agricultural Policy, setting a guaranteed price and a guaranteed market for certain agricultural products like cereal, rice, and milk. And accompanied with import duties and export subsidies, EU products were more competitive on the global market. This boost in production led to overproduction in the 80s and 90s. The surplus of food led to a drop in food prices in the rest of the world that cost $100 billion of yearly income worldwide in developing countries. And when it came to agribusiness, the business of agriculture, large profit-driven transnational corporations have persuaded many LDC farmers to switch from agricultural to commercial non-food production, known as crop substitution. LDCs were convinced by the plan that instead of growing wheat, they should grow and sell cocoa or cotton, and then buy their wheat from elsewhere, leaving them with a surplus of money. This would help Europe and North America to sell the surplus in new LDC markets, boosting production and availability worldwide. However, countries that used to be self-sufficient now suffer from widespread malnutrition as they are stuck with non-food crops that do not yield the money required to buy the food that they used to grow themselves. As you can see, transnational corporations have a large impact on production and availability. They exert a strong influence on prices, they demand a uniform quantity of production, they cause a loss of dependence as we've seen, but however, they have introduced modern farming techniques and expertise into remote areas which have benefited local people. Other types of trade agreements include bilateral agreements and multilateral agreements, in which one set of consumers enters an agreement with a set of producers to buy and sell a specific product. Note that bilateral agreements are between one producer and one buyer, while multilateral agreements involve many countries. Ideally, these agreements would boost production and economic growth in both the producing and the buying countries. However, bilateral agreements are sometimes unfair, leading to a decrease in food availability in the producing country to the benefit of the consumer. However, when done right, these agreements have a positive effect, as was the case of Sainsbury, who would sell millions of fair trade bananas from St. Lucia. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Next video, we'll be talking about the analysis of risk. What do you think of transnational corporations, Arthur?
Oh, they're cool.
There you have it. They're cool.